Power Up Gaming, the only destination you need for retro video games, consoles, and accessories. Want access to exclusive specials? Like us on Facebook.
Okay, so today we're going to do up a short little video on Gamecube controllers, and the only reason we're doing this one is because I just recently had a customer come in. It was mentioning about sticky buttons, so buttons being really sticky, and typically what that is somebody spilled something on there, got crap in there or whatever, and just hasn't cleaned it out. To people that have never opened up controllers, it can be intimidating, but really it's very, very easy to do, and hopefully I can shed some light on that one today. So what we're going to do is just tear it apart, clean out all the buttons. We're also going to clean out all the crud that gets on the edges here, which in some cases can be absolutely disgusting. This controller is not that bad, but some of the ones we get in are really, really gross. And then also we're going to give the cord a little wipe, get rid of any residue on there. So it's going to be a short one, but it should be good for those people that are a little anxious. The one thing I will mention, in order to get the most of the Nintendo products open as far as accessories and such, especially GameCube or newer, you do require a tri-wing screwdriver. So it's not, I can't really do a close-up, but I'll put a link on it. You can pick these up on eBay for pretty much next to nothing. They usually ship from China, so it does take a while. If you're in an absolute rush, we do have them in the store. Typically they're in the store for about $10. More than eBay, but convenient. So if you need one of those, that's it. If you hear the noise in the background, I apologize. I don't know if you can see him from here. No. But my puppy's just on the ground playing with his bone. So that's what the grunting or chewing of a bone is in the background. So anyways, we'll start with the opening of this thing. So on the back of the controller, there is, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws that will end up opening up on here. So again, tri-wing screwdriver. Now, one thing I will mention is sometimes in these screws there gets to be a lot of crud in there. What you can do is actually just grab a Q-tip with a little bit of Windex on it, and before you even try with a screwdriver, because you can actually end up stripping the screws, is stick the Q-tip into the holes with the Windex on it, and you can clean out most of the crud that's sometimes caked into the actual screw holes themselves. Also makes the screws look a little bit nicer. This one here, which again, I don't have my microscope camera here yet, so focus, focus, focus. Focus. Anyways, it is pretty disgusting. Actually, I should have done it to this one. I think that one focuses a little better. But anyways, they can get pretty gross looking. This one is another one that is going to be a pain, which I should have cleaned out ahead of time. Just put as much force as needed on the actual screw to get the screwdriver into the head. Oh yeah. That is a crusty one. We'll see if we can get that into the shot. And focus. There we go. Gives you a little bit of information anyways. But yeah, that screw is gross. Okay, so we've got all 6 of those screws open. What you'll want to do is open it this way so that the buttons actually stay in place on the other side. And you're just going to rock it back and forwards. Oh, actually, I forgot a screw. Look at that. That's what happens when you're talking and not paying attention. Okay, so now 6 screws out. Open it up this way. Back cover comes right off. No buttons fall out. All good so far. The nice thing about this one is this is the vibration motor here. It's right into the middle of the controller. There's nothing to be done there. So that part's nice and easy. So this part here comes off as a complete unit. You don't have to worry about any falling off pieces. The only thing you have to worry about is like this silicone pad that's by my thumb right now. those kind of things falling off, but that's not an issue. We take those off, and that's part we're going to be cleaning regardless. So that guy just goes back on there, and we're good to go on that one. So the other thing to make note of, these little joysticks, you can buy replacements. They may be a little harder to find on eBay, but we do have them in store. So if yours are looking like crap or they're completely torn up, you can just replace those ones. The analog sticks are also replaceable, these guys here, but it does cost a little bit of money. In most cases, it's at this point it's not really cost effective to replace them, but we can get those cleaned up regardless a little bit. Get rid of any of the hair and everything that I see on this one, which is rather gross. So anyways, I'm going to take off these controllers, which just end up popping off for now, just so we can see the actual control sticks. And we'll see if we can get a little bit of a zoomed in picture here for you. Okay, so again, I don't have my my other camera that's on order, so I can't show you a really good close-up. But if you can see that, there is a lot of hair and crud and everything else on that control stick. So we will get that cleaned up too, but the main purpose is stuck buttons, which is the first thing we're going to work on here. So underneath here, just take off the silicone pad, and the silicone pad there, and the silicone pad there, and you have all the buttons. This guy does stick in there very well, but if he does come out, it's not a big deal. He's easy to get back in there. But what you want to do is just kind of pull up all the buttons, get them out of there. They only ever go in one way, so you're always going to be able to find which ones they are. You don't even have to look at the letters. They do say the different letters on them, but no big deal. Get all these out of here. Get the middle button out of there. So there we are. So there's the shell itself. Easiest thing to do is you can do it with Q-tips and everything else. I have cotton pads here somewhere. Now, cotton pads, they're not all made the same. I buy these actually in bulk from Costco. These are a woven pad. The nice thing about the woven pads is they don't pull apart as easy. One side is very woven, the other side is more fluffy. The fluffier side is typically what you get when you're buying the cheap ones. Spend a little bit of money. Shoppers Drug Mart usually has the woven ones. The woven ones stay together and end up with less fluff when you're actually doing cleaning. So if you're going to buy some, they're really inexpensive, but they're very easy and awesome for cleaning projects. So what I typically do is just spray it down with a little bit of Windex, and we'll go into the bigger areas where the pads are. Give that a wipe down. We'll get into the fine details with a Q-tip afterwards. Won't be able to get into the other ones, but we'll give all these guys a good wipe down. Okay, so those are the big ones. Small ones we can use Q-tips on. You think I'd pre-plan and actually have this stuff on my desk, but nope, I don't do a lot of pre-planning. Okay, so the Q-tips themselves, what you can do is just grab a bottle cap or something, which I'm sure I have one around here, so make it up pop. So, bottle cap. Grab the Windex. Spray some into that, we'll put that aside. This allows us just to dip in the Q-tip, make it a little quicker. So, Q-tip loaded up. Just go into the actual buttons themselves, clean them up. Get rid of any crud that's in there. This one, as I said, isn't that bad. So there's no point me showing you the absolutely disgusting Q-tips because these are not going to be that bad. We are picky when we bring in controllers, so most of the controllers that do bring in are in pretty good shape beforehand because we can't justifiably open up every single controller to clean out crud and pay top dollar for them. So our retail store, we got to make some money. Okay, so that's pretty good. The other thing you're going to notice here is this one again is not that bad, but around all the edges gets completely and utterly clogged with skin flakes, dirt, food, whatever the person had on their hands when they're playing this over the years and years and years. So at this point, you're going to want to really, really get in there and clean all the way around the outside. I don't know if you can see that, but that is gross. And this, like I said, this isn't even that bad of a controller, so this is your chance to really make this controller shine. Now the ultimate solution to get these clean, and something we do have in-house, is an ultrasonic cleaner. So I can physically take all the components out of this, and actually just drop it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and it gets rid of every single speck of dirt that is on this. But most people don't have one of those kicking around at home. Okay, that looks pretty good. So what you'll want to do is grab the other side of the controller and actually go all the way around also. I'm not going to do that right now. Actually, you know what? I will do it. I'll just pause it while I get caught up to what I'm talking about. You guys don't need to see that part anyways. So just to be more thorough and have a complete video for this one, I'm going to go through one other thing, and that's the actual triggers. These can be repaired or cleaned up too. You don't see them sticking too often, but I mean, if you're tearing it down to this point, there's no reason why you should stop and not clean these too. So we will go through that. Just need a small Phillips screwdriver here, just to take out. There's 2 screws on that side, and then 2 screws on the other side. This can be a little more intimidating. It's actually extremely easy. If you take off the cover, you're like, oh shoot, this is kind of scaring me. Don't worry, there's no springs that are going to shoot out or anything, and it does come out as long as you kind of follow this technique here. So once you get those 2 screws out, this little cover guy comes off, and then you're left with this weird looking thing. What you can do is you just squish it, grab behind by the silicone pad, and this will come right out. So inside here is a spring and a lever. You don't even have to touch any of that. It does stay together really well. It's not like it's going to fall apart in my hands here. From there, you're just going to clean the button. The other thing is, if you do get any kind of rough finish on here, it can get caught a little bit too. There's a bit of crud there. But yeah, so that's how you get those guys out. The other side does it the exact same way. So you can clean up those buttons, and then putting it back is exactly the same way. So you just kind of hold it, pinch it up, slide it in, and then that piece, there's 2 little legs in there. Actually, we'll try and zoom up a little bit. Actually, since we're already zoomed. Okay, so there is 2 legs. It just sits in those 2 legs. I don't know if you can see it very well, but it just kind of sits in there nice and tight. Trigger continues to work. We're good. Spring's working. And then you just put the plastic cover back on it. Like that. And then put in the screws again. One thing I will mention, whenever you're screwing into plastic, just go only as much as you need to. I'm going to go up actually. Don't over tighten them. Plastic into plastic, you can strip the screws themselves. Actually, that's... where's the proper one? Going to go a little bigger. So you only want to screw it in as much as it'll actually tighten it. So just go until it actually feels some resistance. And stop there. Don't over tighten them, please. There we go. So that one's back in, works perfectly, and we're all good there. So now we've cleaned up the top and the bottom. Actually, I'll just go back to the bench shot. So now we cleaned up the top part, the bottom parts. From here, actually there's that green button that comes off. Let's just put that guy back on. Usually he doesn't fall off. But of course, when I do a video. So this one here just has to fit over the lip. And actually you can't see that at all. So, zoom in a bit. So, it's a little tedious, but not that bad. It just has to fit over that little black lip in there. And then the trigger starts working again. So we'll just keep that one in there. Okay, so the next point you're gonna do is just clean all the buttons in little bits. And then after that's done, you're gonna fit them in. And like I said, I mean, you can look at the letter orientation and everything else, but they're socketed in such a way that they only go in one way. So everything will fit in the proper way. There's the button there. That guy right there. A little tiny button right there. Okay, from there you have your silicone pads. Again, they only go on one way. Should be pretty self-explanatory. There's a little tiny black hole there that the plastic piece from the bottom actually goes into it. And then this guy is the same way. It's your directional pad. And there's a little black post and the hole goes through, or the black post goes through the hole there. Other than that, you got the little tiny guy here, which has two holes. If you put it on one way and it doesn't seem to fit right, you probably got it the wrong way, so flip it around. And that fits on just like that. So from there, we never did actually take a look at the board itself. Oops, there goes that little trigger again. And he's back on there. Okay. So I'll put that aside for a second, and we'll talk about the control board here. So one thing to keep in mind, there is electrical current that goes through this. So if you're going to use anything to clean this, like Windex or anything else, please make sure the board is actually dry before you power it in. Otherwise you can short out this. I mean, the capacitor there, you got the SMC, the surface mount chip there, and all the capacitors and resistors and everything else. So there is electronics on here. There is a 5 volt voltage going through here. So please be gentle with it. We also have a little tactile switch here. Just give that a little press. Make sure that you can actually feel a little click, click, click. That'll tell you that it's actually working. I mean, if you haven't had problems with this controller, it's probably not that big of a deal. What I tend to do is I don't even use liquid. Just grab a dry toothbrush and just clean out as much of the crap around the control sticks as you can get. All that hair and everything else. Gets kind of gross on the stick. And it'll start looking pretty good. The other thing you may want to do is grab some rubbing alcohol and just rub the actual pads. These are carbon pads here, which make contact with the silicone pads that we had on the other piece over here. So these pads here, the little black pieces actually press against the actual pads, and that's what sends the electrical signal. So any grease, crud, corrosion, anything like that on these pads will actually cause a problem. What you can use is a little bit of a steel wool, or even a stainless steel brush. Sorry. Test, test, test. Okay, so when we're looking at the carbon pads here, you just want to make sure that they have a good contact with the actual board. Again, if you haven't had any problems with the controller making contact, then they're probably fine, but you know, doesn't hurt to give them a quick wipe down with a little bit of rubbing alcohol, get rid of any grease that may have gotten on there. From there, the actual control sticks themselves. Give them a good wipe on the outside if they are good. If they're no good, then get them actually replaced. And there's the other guy there. So as far as the orientation goes, I mean, they only ever go on one way. If you're looking at the inside of this, there's actually a little nub. It's shaped perfectly to the stick itself. So you just have to line it up, get it in, shove her on. And the same with the other one that's kind of loose here. If you're looking at the stick here, it'll tell you which way it goes back on. Just a matter of lining it up, pushing it on, and there we go. So now that we've got everything cleaned up, we've talked about everything else, we can go ahead and put it back together. Just as easy as it came apart. You're just going to put the board back into place. The yellow stick back into place. Only goes in one way. And of course that little purple trigger came off once again. Get that back on. And you can feel the sticks and everything else. You know, the sticks all feel good from underneath. Not going to flip it over because everything falls out. This guy here is the only thing you got to be careful of when you're putting it back together. So this guy here has a loop created with a zip tie. That loop there fits over the plastic post, and then the cord itself just fits through the actual slot there. As long as you have that in place around the actual post, it'll close up fine. Yellow guy, make sure that the yellow stick, the analog stick, is actually nicely pushed down in place, and you're good to go there too. Grab your other side of the cover, slide her on top carefully. Everything should line up. If it's not lining up, if it feels like you got to push against it to actually get it in place, you probably have something pinched. Most likely it's probably this back cable, or the yellow stick's not in place. There's not a lot of other things on this controller that can actually go out of place. But from there, your buttons themselves, the control sticks, and everything else should feel a lot better. And since you've already cleaned in all the crevices, you won't have any of that crud in there either. Okay, so from there, we can grab our 6 screws. Put them all back into position. All my screwdrivers are actually magnetized, which works out well, except in situations where you're trying to get the screw into the hole. Sometimes it kind of works against you. Okay. And there we have it. Controller's back together. Hook her up. Make sure it works fine. If you have any issues, just put the comments in the comments below, and I'll see if I can help you out as much as I can. Yeah, that should be it. Oh, as far as the cord goes, I mean, it should be self-explanatory anyways. But typically, you know, just lengthen it out, straighten out the cord, and again, easiest thing in the world. Grab one of these. Running out of Windex here. Awesome. Okay. So what you're going to do is just grab one of the pads there and run up and down the actual cord here. You don't have to worry about electrical anything on this. There's no electrical current that you're going to short it out unless you have any cuts in it. But just give it a good wipe. I mean, even on that last little section, a little bit of grease there. But yeah, it's a good chance to check out the cord, check for any damage, and yeah. Any questions, comments? Put in the link below. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed, and I'm sure we'll be doing a lot more of these little sessions.